Hey guys, my name is Nick B, and let's jump into this week's futures overview. So, let's start with the Forex Factory, the economic calendar. Monday, we don't have much going on. Tuesday, it's a bit quiet too. Wednesday, we have Flash Manufacturing PMI, Flash Services PMI. Thursday, we have GDP. That's going to be a big one at 8:30. Unemployment claims as well. Friday, Core PCE Price Index. And I think that's it for this week. Let me see. Uh-oh. Yeah, no, this week. Okay. So that's all we have for this week. Fine. Let me just share my screen for the Discord guys. Okay, and let's jump into it because we're making some moves here. Okay, let's start with ES. It's going to be the simpler one. 2-year daily. Maybe let's make 3-year daily so we could see this previous all-time high. And as always, I'm just going to clear the chart so you can get an idea why I plot the levels I plot and why, each support resistance level has whatever importance to it. Okay, as always, I can't plot the all-time highs right now, 48.79. Our upside target for ES is 4,900. Above that, I don't see why we don't tag 5,000, but that is super optimistic because I kind of feel like this is a mania market here ever since we gapped up from 46.30. I mean, we've had no breaks pushing higher and higher. It's going to be interesting to see how develops. Either the dips are going to keep getting bought until a certain point where we just can't go any more higher and it's going to pull back, or we're slowly but surely going to start seeing some kind of a pullback down to the downside. And we'll cover the levels on what we're looking for a breakdown, what area is valid to short, what area may be valid to go long, and overall the different scenarios. So let me go ahead and start off by plotting 4808.25. That was that previous all-time high, super important level. I mean, as long as we are above that level, it's kind of serving as a guidance level. I used to have, well, not used to, I still do, but if I plot yellow support resistance levels, they tend to be I my definition for them is they're trend directional, support resistance. That means if we break below them or break out above them, that's most likely the direction we're going to take on. But for 4808, I'm not going to make it yellow this time. As a guidance level, I think I'm going to change it up to, let's make it purple. Purple is the guidance level. White, when I plot white support resistance levels, usually they're on the smaller time frame, maybe like the 1 hour down to the 15 5 minute. Those are insignificant SNRs. And then the basic, red ones that I put up, they're just, channel floor support resistance, support resistance between a channel. I just want to get that out the way. So 4808 here. And let's talk about, the downside scenario, because if we do start pulling back, what would be that downside target? Because upside, it's hard to call a ceiling. We can only, I would say we can only guess it. It would be 4,900, and then again, above 4,900, I want to say 5,000 is the ceiling. But, I've seen markets, do things before. There's a quote for it, markets can stay irrational longer than we can be solvent. So let me go ahead and now plot off 4630. That's going to be 4634 area, this area here. I'm going to leave that as a floor. You know what? We'll also make this a yellow SNR to know that if we end up breaking below this area here, we could see more downside. But let's get into it and break this down to the 4 hour, because I don't have anything here that I can plot out anymore. We basically just broke out of this channel here and seem to be going higher. So let's take a look at the smaller time frame to see if we can identify what would be a breakdown or breakout maybe level here, or maybe by the dip area. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I could just zoom this in. I'm going to go ahead and plot this level off here. 48, 40, 48, 41, 50. That was the last breakout that we had. So we'll either pull back to 48.40 and break down and start making our way down lower, or the dip is going to continue to get bought up. And, I don't want to go against trend. I don't want to kind of trade on a bias. We'll take the opportunity to ride longs. I'm not against it. I'm not, married to direction. First and foremost, I'm going to set an alert at 48, 41, 50. I believe that was what the last highs were. 41, 50. I'm going to leave that as a red. Actually, I'm going to leave it as a red SNR because I have my alert over it. I would not be inclined to short here. I would not be inclined to short below 48.08. I would not be inclined to short anywhere here until we can ultimately see, a break of 4700, and then we have that room to come down to 4665. Below 4665, we're eyeing this 4634, 4630 area. Below that, I would consider 4550, 4500 as the absolute base, but I won't really plot that down. I won't go into it too much because we're not there yet. But that's just something to consider. Why wouldn't I short, if we go below 4840 or 4800? It depends. It has to be in the moment. I have to see momentum. I have to see my other barometers of kind of determining what price action is going to do, such as the VIX and the dollar during the market open, because you'd essentially be taking a chance shorting here. You're going against the trend. There's no guarantee that the dip does not get bought up here, here, or even here. There's no guarantee that that dip, can continue to dip. There's a chance that we can get bought up at each and every one of these supports. So essentially, again, if we short there, we're just taking a chance. I don't like that idea. It's similar to just gambling. We're not really trying to gamble. Ultimately, though, if we can take out 47.45, I think on the intraday, I'm going to break this down to the 1 hour so we can get a better idea. But I think that's going to be the first leg that kind of gives us an opportunity, a green light that we may be coming down to 4700, 4710 area. And then if we break below 4700, again, we're eyeing 4630. However, if we do pull back to 4840 and this dip does get bought and we continue higher, take out, 4879 or 4900 as the highs, I'm not opposed to, keeping the trend going with buying the dip. The problem, though, I have to reiterate this, is how do you call a ceiling? It's very difficult. So we have a few options. Either we take a bite at 48, 41 going long, judging by momentum and market conditions, maybe that dip gets bought. Or if you want to short, your green light is 47, 45, possibly where you can target these previous higher lows, or you can just play it safer and be patient and wait for a break of 4700, and I think you should have no issues targeting 4630 to the downside, because that would ultimately be the pullback. The gray area, I need to reiterate, is going to be really anywhere from 4700 to 4840. That's a gray area. We might consolidate here. I've seen some weird stuff going on with price action in the past, so we'll see what we get. But those are the kind of scenarios I'm kind of looking for, upside, downside. um, Let me break this down to the 1 hour. Let me see what it looks like here. Yeah, it's really tough to kind of even attempt to short anywhere and up in these areas here because you don't have that certainty that you're gonna get that continue. You just don't have that certainty. Why take a chance? You can take a chance, but again, that's not part of our trading strategy. So we'll see what we get when we get to 48, 41. If we break below it, maybe we'll take a chance at biting on a short. Maybe I'll have to see what we get and we'll go from there. Again, on the hourly, it doesn't tell us anything different than what the 4 hour would. So if we do take a chance, break shorting 48.40, ultimately, I would say our first target to the downside intraday, I would say is 48.20. If we can get below 48.20, we're coming down to 48.08, which was those previous all-time highs. Psychologically, if we break 4800, round number theory on the 1 hour, that should give us room and confidence probably to come down lower, and we'll go from there. But again, just keep in mind it's very difficult to short, when the trend is bullish as well as when you got, constant higher lows forming. So you're just taking a chance. If you want it to be cleaner, it would have to be a short, taking out these higher lows here at 47.45 and then targeting 4700. But again, if you want to be safer than all, 4700 break is the short. Now, in terms of going long, I wouldn't be a fan of, we break, the all-time high and go long there. I'd rather wait for the pullbacks and then we take a chance at going long, and riding out until, price starts to stutter. We can only kind of use the round number theory to determine our targets to the upside again because it's difficult to call a ceiling. It's very difficult. So that's what I'm looking for on ES. Again, we'll get a little more confirmation into Monday's open. We'll go from there. So I'm going to leave this alone for now. Let me put it onto the 15 minutes so I could kind of monitor it overnight. And then let's jump into NQ. So same thing, I'm going to do 3 years daily. And let me start clearing out the chart. Clear. Yep. Let me get rid of all these alerts from last week. Wonderful. Okay, so similar to ES, that 4808 level, I'm going to go ahead and mark off 16,767. 16,767.50, if we want to be technically correct. And let's go ahead and change it to purple. Because again, it can't really be a trend level yet. I mean, we can get a good idea that yeah, if we peak below, 16,767, maybe we go lower. And the reason I say maybe is because the last time we dipped below 767, we bounced right off of 16,300, and that similar target to the downside where we're targeting 4630 on ES. The equivalent of that area, I would say, on the Nasdaq would be 16,100, 16,060 area, which is roughly these levels here. Let me zoom back out and let me see if I plot it right here. It comes out to 1660. So I'm gonna go ahead and plot that right here. At the same time, let me see. Oh, that's an important level. This used to be a lower high right in this area. It's difficult to see because I have the MAs over here, but you could see it right here. 16, 1610, 1660. So I'm gonna go ahead and plot it on this wick right here. Okay, that would be our downside target. And let me turn this to yellow because if we ultimately end up breaking below this, there's really not much to stop price from coming down to 15,700, 15,800. Below that, I really do think we're going to revisit 15.7 and then possibly even 15.5 on that pullback. But let's see. In terms of upside, again, I can call this ceiling here. I can plot it, and we're gonna do this on the intraday. But in terms of upside, I was targeting 17,500. It looked a little silly, but here we are into Sunday's open above 17. 500. I don't see why we don't reach 17,800, even 18,000, possibly. Sounds crazy, but a mania market could do many things. Again, I could be wrong. This could be the week where we decide to pull back seasonally. Well, what we've seen before is from January, February, we get a bit of a push up in that Q1. And then for the last 4 years, I want to say we've been getting sold off into, late January to beginning of February, maybe March. And again, to keep the consideration that, the market has a correction at least once a year. And we're definitely due for one because, again, Carlos has been mentioning that he would not be a buyer of stocks in this area here. The valuations seem pretty high. So we'll see. We'll see what we get. Let me go ahead and break this down to the 4 hour now because, again, there's really not much to determine here other than if we dip below 16,767, that opens us up to the possibility of pulling back to, let's say, 16,100 to be conservative with it. This was last week's highs, 17,165. So let me go ahead and break this down to the 4 hour. And let's go ahead and plot this support level now. It's now a support. Let me just adjust it. 65, what was it, 25, I believe. Okay. Again, there's similar to what we just went over on ES. These are the few scenarios that I could see happening. We either pull back to 17,165 and the dip gets bought and we continue on higher, targeting 17.5, which is crazy, but it's possible. Or we break below 17,165. Again, I would not be inclined to be a short seller in that moment. I mean, depending, it has to be, we'll have to see what kind of momentum we have or if we can scalp some moves, sure. But in terms of shorting, it's very tough because again, the trend is an uptrend. Don't trend against the front. Don't trade against the trend. The trend is your friend. So if we break below it, there's not a certainty that that dip continues to come down to the higher lows of 16.7, 67, 67. Um, we could just end up bouncing off of 1750 or 17,000 area. But if we do end up breaking down, below 17,165 and come down to 767, breaking below that, maybe I'd be inclined to take a shot at a short. But again, as I mentioned, I don't like that term, take a chance. It makes it seem like I'm gambling. We're not gamblers. We're not trying to gamble here. So ultimately the cleaner short would be if we take out these higher lows of 16,350, 16,338, and then we could come down towards 16,000. I know we're leaving a lot of points on the table, but again, for the Discord guys, I'll be on top of it. We'll see kind of what we get, depending again with the momentum, VIX, dollar, the different market barometers I use, and we'll make a play. But in terms of kind of the big picture, this is the same as ES, what we went over on ES. The zone basically stems from, I don't even want to say 16,767. I would say really 16,300, 16,333, all the way up to 17,165. That's the zone where you're going to get uncertainty. It's just what it is. Anything above those previous highs and the dip gets bought, sure, yeah, we could go higher, absolutely. Or if we break below 16,333, again, we can get a pretty good idea that, hey, we're probably making new market lower lows or lower highs, and we can continue to target that support, that previous higher high of this 16,060 to 16,100, 200 area even, right here where we wicked. Cool. I'm cool with that. So that's kind of what I'm overall looking here. I see that on the intraday, if I break this down to the 5 minute, let's say, the 20-day EMA on the 5 minute has been wonderful, I rather say, because each dip has been getting bought, and we can see as long as price action supports the 20-day EMA, as long as it closes above it, that dip gets bought. And it's been kind of serving me as that support meter, since last week. I was just not convinced that, it was worthy to go long or try to ride it out because I've seen manias before, for example, like COVID, and it's very difficult to call the ceiling until it happens. And again, going back to what I know now, considering the last 4 or 5 years, roughly around end of January, February, maybe into March, we've been seeing those sell offs. I don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the coin again. So let's see what we get. Let me see the 1 hour here. Yeah, I mean, look at that. All you could say is either we're going to come down towards the 20-day, maybe 17,300, retest that and bounce and continue higher, which again, I'm not opposed to going long and taking advantage of that opportunity, or we come down to 17,165 and we go from there. Now, with NQ, I guess the green light for shorting, which I can be a little bit more confident because if we take out those lower highs, we can have a proper risk of definitely a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio where if we break below 17,165, I think we can easily target. No, see, got me thinking. I'm in my head again. Remember last week, the 17,100, 17,120, 17,130 intraday levels? Well, that is a danger sign ahead if we do end up breaking down because, again, we're looking for. I like a little bit of certainty when I'm trading direction. So that gives me uncertainty because if we break below 17,165, there's no guarantee that we're able to flush below 130, 120, or the 100 area to come down to 17,000. So we'll have to see. We'll have to play this very carefully. Again, I'm not opposed to buying the dips at the supports and possibly riding it long, but these are the kind of scenarios we're eyeing for. I don't want to force anything, and I definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of the coin because it could go bad real fast. So that's kind of really what I'm looking for on NQES overall. Anything to do here? No. Above 17,500, again, I covered. I think I would target 17,800 as the next kind of ceiling, 18,000. But again, very tough to call a ceiling. These are just guesses. And the guess is based off of how much, NQ or ES can move intraday. NQ likes to move sometimes 150, 300 points intraday. And then ES, we know for a fact it moves 20 points intraday, but on a big, strong volatility move, I've seen ES move upwards of 100 points in a day. It's possible. We'll see what we get. Other than that, that's really all I'm eyeing. The dollar's not really concerning. I mean, oh, wait, I have AMD up. Let me pull up Dixie. Looks like it's kind of rejecting here. I mean, maybe that'll help us, but again, a lower dollar, I think in turn should give us higher prices. So let's see what we get. I can't make a call based off of it right now. So we'll have to see what we get. Other than that, those are kind of the big picture scenarios I'm looking for. So let's see how we do. I hope you have a great trading week as well, and we'll go from there.